who's best in Rugby World Cup, now Rugby Championships.
I'll tell you who's the best now. Me. The best at analysis. Rugby Championship done. We're on to the warm-up games for the World Cup. Got some really interesting highlights to go through with you in terms of Australia and New Zealand. I'm going to do proper reviews of the other games that we've got happening for later today. Not for ones that I don't consider competitors. If I was getting paid to do this as a job, maybe I would. But I'm not. So...
Jerry, you better yell! Show me the money!
The only game I think that borderline is that, but I'm not going to do it, is going to be the Fiji-Japan game. I might have it on in the background, but I'm not going to do a full analysis. Apologies to both those teams. But the other games we've got happening today, in terms of, I think it's called like the Summer League, or basically like Summer Six Nations is what it basically is. The Summer Nations 2023. I'm going to cover all those games. I think they're all interesting. And I'm going to try and stay up and watch Argentina, South Africa. So I think that's going to be a fascinating game considering what happened last week. This morning, at 3:30 in the morning, I was asleep. Australia and New Zealand played each other, and apparently it was a pretty close game. So that's fascinating. I guess it's fascinating only in kind of a tertiary way, because both of these teams are now trying out different areas of their squad they don't necessarily see in their starting 15, giving people a chance. To be honest with you, these are my favourite games of the year, whether it's domestic rugby or whether it's international rugby, because I think it's the difference in rugby compared to other sports is that the players on the bench, and this may not be true of domestic football, but it definitely is, I think, of international football, and it's definitely true of American football. The players on the bench are like markedly worse. So if they give the substitutions a go, the quality of the game's different. But I feel for rugby, like one of my favourite times of year in the Gallagher Premiership is when the Six Nations happens and we still have the domestic games. And you get to see the young guys come in who have a ton of potential. Some other guys get a start that wouldn't usually start. And you have to build your squad for that. And in international rugby is the same deal. So I'm kind of excited to see some people that wouldn't normally be starting getting their chance. Damian McKenzie is an example for New Zealand coming in at 10 after he had that bad game in the first part of the series in which Mungo was basically taking his place. And I think England, in particular, my home nation, rule Britannia. They are going to play some players they wouldn't usually. So I think it's going to be a really interesting weekend. Going to go through all the games. Maybe dress differently. I'm doing this video first thing Saturday morning, out, got my morning coffee. Hence the sunglasses. I'm not used to the sunny weather that we have over here in England right now in the mornings. Yep. Without further ado, let's get into the highlights from yesterday. Yesterday? This morning? It's 3:30 in the morning. Dumbass.
The southern city of Dunedin this afternoon plays host to an All Black Wallaby test for the first time in 6 years.
I like Dunedin.
Under the roof,
I've been to Dunedin. Dunedin, just a little bit on Dunedin. Dunedin's a really cool place. It's a very small town with I think it's the place with a really steep street. I could be describing somewhere completely different, so apologies, my New Zealand brethren that are over there. But Dunedin is literally a tiny town, and it's got a really steep street. And that steep street, I was 18 at the time, so sorry if I got this wrong. Probably shouldn't have my arm up in that direction for too long. It has a steep street. I'll do this instead. It has a steep street, and then at the bottom of the steep street is you got the stadium, I think. And it's literally like a kind of like a nice local team stadium kind of deal. So having an All Blacks game there is pretty cool. I mean, it'd be the equivalent of, I don't know, having like an England game at Tigers. That'd be pretty sweet.
Right under the shadows of the
What's
goal
McKenzie doing over there?
Hands it wide, Pataya, and here's a chance.
Oh, that was almost like copy paste of the try that he didn't quite get last week. Loves the corner. Oh, he's in! Ah, he's in. That's some great body control right there. Oh, you got to give him that. Oh, I want to see it from the front. Come on.
Well,
yeah, give it to him.
What a start for the Wallabies.
What a start for the Wallabies indeed. Strips my shoulder up. Good damn. On the outside again, you've got that guy, Tom Hooper, who reaches over the line. Again, this is my same complaint about highlights. I mean... Oh, okay, actually, no. I don't think that's fair. We got a little bit of build-up play here. I would have liked to maybe seen a little bit more. Let's see. How does that happen? Is it just a mismatch in bodies? I think it is, right? Let's have a look here. 3 men, 5 men. Oh, God. Ian Foster, he's not going to be happy when he looks at this. 5 men here. And you've got 3 forwards on the inside. It's perfectly set up for defence. And the Aussie guy picks a great line so that he sucks in 2 defenders. And then Damian McKenzie's on Tom Hooper. Will Jordan manages to come over and cover, but Damian's just gone way too high there. See how he's like, his head is like above the opposition against Tom Hooper's head, and he's like wrapping his arms over the top. Like Damian McKenzie's a tall boy, but you know, he's got to have proper tackle technique if he's going to try and tackle a 6 like that. Like, man, that's bad. And yeah, I mean, that's just a mismatch there. That's gotta go low. And I don't think there's even an excuse. Let's have like, he's set up. He's not like sprinting across the pitch, right? Yeah, he's not sprinting across the pitch. He's perfectly situated right there. And he's... Well, stolen by Damian. Oh, well, look at this counter. Oh, there's so many numbers. That's a yellow. That's a yellow. Oh, huh? No, you should, no. Okay, let's have a look at here. This is a bigger offence because it causes a yellow card. So you have the high tackle, which is a penalty, but just because you have the high tackle and penalty, they have advantage here, right? And watch this. So this guy, this winger, he made the steal. I think it's the same winger that made the steal a couple of weeks ago. It was amazing. So fair play to him. But this is a yellow card. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys here. They've got 1 and maybe a guy covering here, and maybe you could argue this guy's going to come back and cover, but you'd have the advantage on the cut in. If there's a penalty here, this is a yellow card. This is, and that would supersede the high tackle. Yeah, he doesn't get the ball. It's a deliberate knock-on. That's a yellow card, and that should supersede whatever's happened in the penalty before. Even if it is a penalty for a high tackle, which is still pretty bad, it's a yellow card. That should be. I don't know. I feel like that's a bit of a brain fart from Carl Dixon here. So that should be yellow. He's got advantage. They would have scored a try, maybe. They certainly looked like they could. So, okay, end of the first half. 17-3. Wow. They got something to work with. Let's have a look at how this happened, this try here, because this looks a little bit more interesting. So, we'll go from here. Pass out. Crash in the middle. He's got a great angle here. He's coming on a line where there's a gap in between 2 defenders, which is not easy to spot, but if you can utilize it, it's good. Comes in, gets tackled by the prop. Let's see how everyone's setting up here. They're on the back foot. They've got 1, 2, 3 people offside. They've got this guy, who I think is a centre, so he's got a bit of agility. We've got a prop coming back round the other side to try and defend. We've got the fullback, who's probably feeling pretty nervous at this stage because he doesn't know what direction it's going to go on. Clear out, and the 11 makes a wise play in terms of he realises speed is key here, and he takes the ball rather than giving it to the scrummy. He sees the space because everyone's gone around this side to try and cover because the prop's just gone around that side. He goes on the inside. He takes an angle. The fullback has obviously been caught out because he thought maybe is it going left or right, and he's been caught somewhere in between. And that's just, yeah, that's having a nose for the try line. That's really, really good. And really kind of heads up play as well in terms of knowing that speed is key at that point and not to wait for the scrummy and just go for it and see the opportunity. But he has knocked it on. Oh dear. But hell of a play, dude, honestly. Okay, penalty. Now 4-point game. Australia probably feeling a bit nervous at this point. Right on the try line. Offload. Now, I don't know the rules in huge detail, but I think this is kind of an obstruction, and this should have been called. Watch here, right? Sam Cane offloads it to 23, and then he steps in front of them as a attacking support. Watch this. So Sam Cane comes in, he does an offload, and then look at here. He's getting his shoulder into the... You can see it right there. He gets the shoulder into the fly half shoulder. And the fly half, Gordon, he still makes the tackle. Like, he doesn't let it affect him. But now Sam Cane is ahead of the guy with the ball, and he's still actively in the play. And he's trying to drag him forwards. Like, that's a penalty in my eyes for Australia. I think they're unfortunate that doesn't get called. He's clear obstruction. He just passes the ball and then runs in the same direction as the guy running with the ball and basically acts as a battering ram. Like, I think that's unfair. Here we go. And then it's wow, yeah, power. It's incredible. But I think it should be a penalty to Australia there. I'm not sure about that. Let's go. Yeah. I feel your pain, Eddie. Unjustified, in my opinion. Oh, Richie's missed it. Oh, there's that man again. Oh, went a bit high on him, Nick White. Isolated. Wade. That's a hell of a distance for Wade. Wowzers. Right, drawn with 3 minutes to go. Don't mess up here. You're going to mess up here because it's... Oh, it's the scrum penalty that we didn't even get to see. What are these highlights, man? How come I didn't even get to see the scrum where it came from? There's BS, bro. Christ almighty. Right. Highlights need to be better, please, for the love of Jeebus. There you go, end of the game. So it seems... I'm going to pause that right there. It seems Australia were working with a lot more. They played a lot better. And they'll take that as a positive. I guess the one positive is if you're the Wallabies now, is that you're going into a World Cup group. You're Australia, you're in a group with Wales, Fiji, Georgia, and Portugal. And you've just been slapped around in the Rugby Championship by the likes of South Africa, New Zealand, and a pretty feisty Argentina. So maybe this is going to help Australia because they have just been smacked around so much and they still got some positive to take in the last 2 games that they've played. I don't think it's all over for them. I think they've got something to show, and I think they've got teams to beat that they can, not easily, but they can definitely beat and build some confidence going into the quarters and the semis, and who knows, maybe they build some confidence and they get some momentum. So one to watch for me, Australia, for sure. On the other side, New Zealand, I think they're the favourites for the tournament at the moment, really, aren't they? Their team is just insane. They've got I don't see a weakness on their team. They've got great depth in the squad as well for people to come on. It is what it is, bro. Anyways, that's it from this morning. We'll move on to the games this afternoon when they come around. I'm wearing different clothes. Scotland, France. This really was a game of 2 halves, and completely incomparable between those 2 halves. First half, felt like Scotland were trying to force a game plan of basically letting Finn Russell be master magician back at the back. Just adjust this slightly. And it wasn't quite working for them. They couldn't get any momentum. They couldn't get any possession. Nothing was going for them. A second team France was just playing rugby, simple rugby, and casually dismantling them. And then in the second half, Scotland, even though they go down to 14 men early, somehow managed to get much better. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was a specific substitution or... I don't have an opinion on this. I genuinely don't know what was the change between the first and the second half. All of a sudden, it just seemed that their forwards were just playing better without their tight head prop. Maybe it's a tactic for the World Cup that they just need to get their tight head prop to get a yellow or a red card at the beginning of the game, and that's it. Game 1. But I was amazed in the fact that they managed to counter maul incredibly well with 1 less forward. They managed to get clear, quick ball with, 1 less forward. They were getting the ball out quickly. They started to play really great rugby. And this was the Scotland that we started to kind of see emerge coming out of the Six Nations. I watched the first half of that France-Scotland game yesterday. And I was thinking, man, all the momentum that Scotland built in the Six Nations this World Cup just feels like it's just shimmered away. But it didn't. They came back, and they came back much stronger. I want to have a special shout out to Kinghorn, who started at fullback as well. Stuart Hogg obviously retiring and going out of the World Cup because he can't keep up with the team anymore. It's fair enough, but it's a huge loss for Scotland who, Stuart Hogg, probably one of the best 15s I've ever seen in terms of attacking rugby. Sensational. So Kinghorn came in with big shoes to fill, and he filled them. He played really well. Defensively great under the high ball. Attacking really good lines, sensational lines. And Scotland, I don't know if it's luck. I wouldn't put it luck, but they kind of, I'm going to use the phrase, got lucky with finding someone that can slot right in and play fantastically. The only reason I say luck is because Scotland don't always have like generational players, and I'm not saying Kinghorn's that, but they've got a great guy coming in and replacing Stuart Hogg. So special mention to him. I think he played great. Finn Russell also played great. That guy Darcy on the wing as well, blonde-haired boy. Oh man, he was sensational as well, and he did some really good things in terms of support rugby that is a sign of a winger who just wants to get in the action. And it reminded me of Chris Ashton when he was a young lad coming back over to rugby union from rugby league, and he brought that rugby league essence of not just staying on the wing waiting for the ball, but finding yourself on the inside shoulder of the fly half, being in the support play for that one pop-up pass that will basically make it so that you can make a break across the line and get some great play going forward. And defensively, solid as well. So that's another find, I think, for Scotland, where they got Darcy. And to be honest with you, I could see him starting the World Cup with Van der Merwe on the other wing. And I think that's a great back three that they've got there. So plenty of great things. Going to go through my notes as always. I think Ben White's injury is unfortunate, but maybe that was the difference in the team. The scrum half that came on, I felt the ball came out quicker. That's not a slight on Ben White. I think he's a very talented player, but maybe he was just having an off day. The guy that came on for him got the ball out quicker, and I think that made a big difference. Yeah, as I said earlier, but I'm going to mention it here. I felt in the first half, Scotland were just trying to feel like they were forcing the magnificent. And I think that comes with the selection of Finn Russell at fly half, where you put so much on his shoulders to just conjure something, and if it doesn't come out, then it doesn't come out right. And I think he's a fantastic player, but I would just have no idea how to manage a player like that in terms of what the game plan is if things aren't quite right. Like, what do you do to kind of like change the momentum and make sure that he can actually have the opportunity to start getting that momentum back? Yeah, it's Darcy Graham. That was the guy, Darcy Graham. Fantastic player. Yeah, and there was the stat in the second half as well. I think we got about 60-minute mark, and Scotland had 93% possession in the last 10 minutes. They saw that come up on the TV screen. And I think that was really the story of the game. You look at the first half, France had the majority of the possession, and even though they had a lot of their substitutes on, I think Scotland had some substitutes starting as well, but probably a few more stars than France did. Both of these teams are very good with possession-style rugby. When they have the ball in their hand, they are dangerous. When they don't, if you can keep the possession out of it and just have the ball and march down the field, then you're going to cause some issues for them. So I think it's something to note for both of these teams. And yeah, this is the note I have here that I'm going to mention a second time. How the hell did their countermaul, Scotland's countermaul, operate so good in the second half? Like, there's no analysis I can make of that. I have no idea how with one less forward they managed to do it. But anyway, that's it for me for Scotland-France. I think both teams, very exciting for the World Cup for both of them. I think they're brimming with potential, both of them, in terms of having some really great rugby. But yeah, on to the next game. Wales-England. Well, can't seriously wear these talking about England. There's nothing to panic about. Don't panic. Everyone stop panicking. Stop. What I will say is that at least the substitutes were on. At least this is final pre-season game before we cut the squad. That was
the biggest piece of dog that I have ever heard. Everyone's laughing, by the way, but it's true because everybody's heard it too. Everyone heard it, right?
Straight up dog. So friggin' awful. I had to use some actual editing there to cancel those words out. Let's break this down, okay? England made so many possession errors. They knocked the ball on. What was the stat that Andy Good came up with? 16 handling errors. 16 handling errors. That is, get the calculator out. Every 5 minutes, handling error. That's not 5 minutes of possession time. That's 5 minutes of game time. So if you just take the average of saying possession was 50-50 down the middle, every 2.5 minutes, England just, awful. Like, it was bad. As I said, you're not hitting the panic button here as an England fan because you realise that the majority of the players that were starting in that game probably won't be starting in like your best 15. There's probably one or two exceptions to that, but oh boy, it was not good. They could not get anything going attacking. It was very pedestrian. The ball was kind of slow. It was forward smash, knock on usually. You could see what they were trying to do. There was one attack where it actually worked. That was, they got forward smash. Players actually stuck in defense. Marcus Smith on the outside, Joe Marchant line breakthrough. And you could see that happen 2 or 3 times. But my God, if that's our attacking style of rugby, it's so uninventive. It's so easy to read. It's so easy just to change. You just got to be more physical than the attacker. And that just, it doesn't gain any ground. If you knock them back and they don't get over the gain line, you've got nothing after that. You need to have something else in your repertoire. It was bad. And I'm just hoping that next week, Steve Borthwick starts his best 15. We gain some momentum. Say we. I'm meant to be impartial. No, you know what? Rule Britannia. Gain some momentum. Get the best 15 on the pitch. Get the 15 that you're seeing in your head. I'm going to the World Cup final. Who am I playing? Play them next week. Week after, have the same team, make 3 or 4 changes of people that you want to give some match fitness. And then that's it. We're into the World Cup. I think maybe there's one more warm-up game, but I can't remember. But my God, it was bad. Let's have a look at here. That's all England. What I will say is that Wales, for being a team in such chaos at the moment in terms of players retiring, the financial situation that I'm not 100% sure about, but apparently it's pretty dramatic. They played well. They did a good job. They came out and they had a game plan and they did well. And they played some players that weren't going to be starting in their 15 as well. And they played well. They were a cohesive unit and they took advantage of this boring attack by England, especially in the second half where they kind of just realized they just had to live through the attrition of like Ellis Genge running at them or then Ribbons. And then as soon as the England made a mistake, they were great in counter-attack and they managed to go down the ends of the pitch. And they were patient, and when it came time to execute, they executed very well, and they deserve to win the game. You know, this should be good. This is a great thing for Wales. You know, this is a great thing for them. I think they've got a lot to build off of here. They've got some momentum, and hell, I wouldn't put it past them to win next week as well. I'm guessing they want to start bigger at fly half. You know, he's probably their number 1 position that they're going to be having on the pitch. Maybe start 1 or 2 other guys in there. Bring on that. Was it Francis at tight head prop and some other selections as well in their back row. But hey, credit to Wales. They played well. They came and played the game. They really sat through a really boring attack, and when they had the opportunity, they pounced. So yeah, I'll go into my notes down here. England's line out, you know, bad. It's the thing that Steve Borthwick's famous for in the past, just not good. I will let them off a little bit. I think they were trying to experiment with some things, especially at this point, and then this is probably the time to experiment before we're actually in the World Cup. You got 2 more warm-up games. I'd expect less experimentation as things go on. There was one situation where you're on the 5-meter line, you have a line out come down, and then all the forwards think that before the ball's thrown, that they can just train in behind and then get an early drive on them all. And that seemed like it was an experimentation to me, because that would be them testing it to be like, okay, referee's not going to allow this. We're never going to test this again. I saw some lineouts where they had Danny Carroll as the first man, and then you would come back round and do stuff like that. It just all seemed very experimental. But as an England fan and having Borthwick as your head coach, you'd expect lineouts to just be... You wouldn't think they'd need experimentation. You would have thought they just had... That would be their staple and they'd have them down. Scrum time as well. You would expect England scrum time to be dominant, and they weren't. So I've even got written here that I feel I got kind of 3/4 of the way of the game, and I only made like 1 or 2 pages of notes, and I felt bad about not writing a lot, but focusing on the game. It's just a milquetoast of attacks. It's just there's kickaways. It's just not good. And then after that point is when Wales started like tapping up the tries. So not great. Not great. And I guess I got to the end of the game and I thought, well, England's substitutes are playing. Don't need to read too much into this. Maybe the game plan's a bit concerning, but you know, they're all substitutes. So what does it really matter? And then this game happened. Yes. Ireland, Italy, where Ireland probably played none of their starters other than maybe Jack Cronin. I think that's the name of their number 8. He did start, and for some reason they managed to win the game comfortably. So it's just concerning. Anyway, didn't watch this game massively. Had it on the side while I was doing other stuff. So I didn't write any notes down, didn't put it down in details. This is one, as well as the South Africa-Argentina game. We're going to watch the highlights and we're going to go through that. So without further ado.
Ring's got something on his mind. Does indeed.
Quick tap, that's unusual.
Off he goes.
Saw a lot of that in the Scotland-France game as well.
And sets Ireland up for another tilt.
Oh, wow.
And are they there? Very close.
Power.
Approaching the half-hour mark at the Aviva Stadium in Dublin.
I'm annoyed now. I saw this exact thing happen in the England game. I literally just talked about this in the analysis. Watch this. This is allowed in this game, but it's not allowed in the England game. Where's the consistency in referee? Okay, up they go. Pause. 1, 2. Well, that's 7 counts of the scrum half. So, but you've got 1, 2, and you've got 3 coming in who's left the line out. I guess maybe it's because the ball's been thrown. Maybe that's the difference. So I guess that's a timing issue. So I guess, yeah, no, fair enough. He already threw the ball. And I think maybe the England thing was that he hadn't thrown the ball by that time. So fair enough. I got angry for no reason. It was fine. Let's have a look at this. So you didn't see any of this energy out of England. You know, this is just beautiful to see from the guys and the substitutes. Guys who really want it, you know.
Italians have got nowhere to go. The hooker forced to peel away. Up comes the three-quarter line.
That's a nice play.
Oh,
oh, that's really nice. Oh, he's got to get in the corner. Nice. Maybe should have just put the gas pedal down, but it was still good. So how does that space get created? Let's have a look here. Right. It's a scrum. You got all the forwards sucked in. Oh no, there's a 3 and a 2 here. Must have been a line out then. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, it was a line out in a maul. So you got all the forwards suck in. You got 12 getting sucked in. This guy has already come in here. He's the winger, and he should come out as well. Oh yeah, everyone just gets sucked in on the centre line on an aggressive attack, and yeah, didn't work out. That's like an aggressive defense, and that's an example of when an aggressive defense doesn't always work. Because you see how all these guys are closing in and trying to close in the gap, but because, one, they didn't do it fast enough. I mean, I don't know how much faster they could have done. But because that's the decision they went with, that the space was outside, so Italy had the chance to get it outside quickly. See there, it's just the decision of like, I recognise the defence is coming in and closing at me and trying to create an angle of cutting off the outside, but it doesn't always work, you know, it's a very aggressive play in defence. No context for this. Another great highlight moment. Great. What I learned from that? Nothing. No context. No idea. Thanks, highlights team. That's just it's just a mismatch in body shape and type, isn't it? Keith Earls against a giant centre.
They've got themselves into that position in the second half. Ireland need a little bit of patience now.
What are these highlights, man? My God. How did we get here?
The power to get through Canone. Can't get there. All this coming from the first really good show in this second half of good hands.
Oh, that was lucky. Poor pass and well picked up by Doris is his name? I don't know. Anyway, that was Ireland, Italy. So yeah, I mean, why can't England do the same thing? I hate to bring it back, but you mean it's my home team. I'm going to do it. Ireland's second team out there, really enthusiastic, great game plan, knew how to play with the ball, managed to play well. Great, well done Ireland. You're looking strong going into the World Cup. Let's go on to the next game. Let's have a look at South Africa, Argentina.
Rugby World Cup here.
Yeah, just bad body positioning.
Yeah, bad body position that. And this is, just pause it here, that's an example of I've harked on about this, and I know I've done it on the TV. I'm not 100% sure I've done it on the channel. Probably done it on the channel, and you're probably sick of me saying it, but with this whole head injury thing, we need to have some responsibility on the person with the ball as well. Obviously. 70% of the time, it's the guy tackling's fault. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm not saying the majority of the case is with the attacking player. However, when we just stick our heads down and we go forwards like this and we lead with our head, what do you think is going to happen? Hey? What do you think is going to happen? And you could see that with the defender there, where he attacked the guy's hip with his head. So, you know. Anyway.
Reinach away to Thomas the Toy.
What's this South African kit, bro?
Time
I
after
kind of like it and hate it at the same time. Oh, that's lovely. Oh, that's a great tackle back.
So. That's a great contest.
Well played. What a catch. Esterhuizen.
For that ball.
Esterhuizen in my list, but Esterhuizen should be, I think, on the bench at least for South Africa for their best 15. I think he's earned that. He's so well for Harlequins. He's come in the games he's played for South Africa now, the two. I don't know about this game because we're 6 minutes in, but the one game that I watched before at the beginning of the Rugby Championship, sensational. And he's so good. He's such a good pressure relief valve for the fly half as well. Marcus Smith really benefits from having an absolutely massive inside centre on him. He can just go, and you can just give him the ball if things break down, you know? He can just take a lot of damage. So that's a really good aspect of Esterhuizen. I'm glad to see him in the team. These Argentinians can play.
No. Here he comes, Bertrand!
Wow, that's a wake-up play.
With test points.
That's really good. I want to go back here for a second. And let's have a look at the slap and go. So penalties called. Let's see how the South African players react here. You've got one guy here, and this would be the guy that would be doing the tackle if he suddenly just ran back. Probably knackered, giving him credit. You know, he's probably just been on a defensive run back. And he's suddenly realised that the scrum half's going for it. This is really eyes up play from the scrum half, where he's realised I've suddenly got the ball in a really good position and I'm going to do a quick tap. And that's just great. Well played. This heads up rugby.
With test points.
10.
Yeah, sensational. Really good reading of the situation.
Right, goes left. After this is Mapimpi. Kobani. An interesting first half, to say the very least.
Argentina winning 10-3.
Begins.
This score at this point in the game, getting to half-time with that, really impressive. And I'll tell you why. Because it's not only a ridiculously high score, so it doesn't show me that you got a lot of really key and easy opportunities to score early and South Africa fell apart. Only being 7 points ahead of South Africa at half-time. Even though you can make the argument South Africa are playing a lot of substitutes, etc., etc., that's impressive. It means that you played them at their own game, taking a penalty, taking a try, it's low scoring, and you're competing with them. And that's what I've seen from these first half highlights. Really excited about Argentina. I'm not excited about them playing England. I think they're going to beat the living poop out of us. But, yeah.
Out the dummy runners, Creel with the offload to Willemse.
Nice.
It's Mapimpi on the outside.
Beautiful. And that's where Willemse is more natural, right? He's at that 15 position rather than playing 10.
Great kick this time.
Of course, for me, it's Willie LaRue at 15 and nothing else.
Good work.
Have
good
Williams on the bench for sure. He's versatile, but Willie LaRue is just insanely good.
With the cross kick, Moody's in position.
Oh!
Moody's in.
Can we ever watch that again? Is that going to show it again?
Doesn't get it.
I do appreciate the massive Coca-Cola.
Manili Bok keeping his wit. Cannon Moody.
With the
Is that come? No, that's come from a breakdown, and he's over here, recognises all the players on the inside.
cross kick.
Oh, beautiful. Again, that Coke can's pretty cool, bro. Libok's kicking's off,
one to the left.
People in the comments, let me know if Libok's kicking is an issue, because if it is, that's an issue for South Africa. Really integral part of their game is being able to constantly keep the scoreboard ticking over to have constant points just edging up and edging up, edging up. So if that is an issue, I can understand why they were a bit hesitant for Manny Libok not starting for them.
A lot of changes in both packs and the Springboks.
Let's have a look at this scrum again. I would say the tight head here for South Africa is going in at an angle here. He's also in front of the 1 and the 2. If you're in the front row and we're looking from a bird's eye view, you want your loose head slightly in front of the hooker's head, and then that being slightly in front of the tight head's head. Sorry, the loose head, hooker, tight head, and you want to do that coming in at an angle because the loose head wants to be on the front, further in front of the others, because he's got an outside shoulder that's not supported. So it means that he can kind of get round a little bit and drive at a little bit of an angle, even though he's not meant to. But it's better for the loose head to do that. You can see here, the tight head is ahead of the hooker. I'd say the bind here is nowhere near tight enough for the hooker, which means that the Argentinian hooker can have a gap to go through. The whole thing's just not very steady. You've got the typical South African backs, which look really good, except from this one that looks pretty rounded. And you've got the Argentinians just kind of like a little bit all over the place. This front row kind of feels like it's rounded. The second rows are kind of going up at an angle. It's kind of doing like a squiggly wiggly. And we look how this results. You see here, he's driving in here.
A lot of changes.
Where is it going to collapse?
In both.
It's going to collapse on the tight head side and on the loose head side here, where it's kind of initially crumpled in on this right-hand side here because the tight head's gone in at an angle and the loose head is able to come round on him and drive into his side that's collapsing on there. And I think, in my head, because of how that's resulted, that should be a penalty to Argentina because of that. The tight head is coming in at an angle which is causing the whole scrum to go down, and it has resulted in the wrong direction. He gave the penalty in the wrong direction. I think referees should play front row for like a amateur team for a year or something. I don't know how you teach it. I feel like the only way to know it is like actually playing front row, even at any level. I mean, I played freaking schoolboy level and like a third team for a men's rugby club that was purely amateur. And because I played front row, I just feel like you can just see things and you know how it's working. The referees, I just think because they've never played it, they don't get it, and I think that's an unfortunate part of the game. Let's have a look at the scrum again. It's not as bad. So you see how this tight head is now way closer to the hooker here, which means that it's forced him to straighten up the direction that he's driving. And that means that it's not going to collapse on this right-hand side, but the reason it collapses on the other side because of that. Do you see that? See, we've got a really good example of what it was like beforehand, and then what it was like on this side. Unfortunately, we can't see what's happening on the loose head side of South Africa to see why that collapsed, but that's a straight example of the tight head fixed his problems, and it meant that it no longer went down on his side. So there you go, cut and paste. You can view the clip before, view this clip, and you can see an example of how making a small difference can make a big difference. But I think the referee's just in South Africa dominant mode, so he's just giving penalties all over the place. Not that I can see what's happening on the other side, so maybe they are, I don't know.
The clear space. Libok with the cross kick again for Keenan Moody.
He likes that cross kick, doesn't he?
From Manili Libok going low.
For Los Pumas.
Okay, that's it. So, final thoughts of the weekend. I think we're not learning a huge amount about any of the teams. A lot of them played substitutions of what I think would be their starting 15 for the World Cup. I think in that regard, if your team played well, don't get too excited. And if your team played badly, aka this guy, don't get too put down. This is very much what I see as like the final pre-season week in like an NFL season, which is typically all the guys that are on the fringe get a chance to have a game, and this is their last chance because I believe the squad's getting announced next week. I think that's the case. I'm not 100% sure on that. I think I just heard that in passing in the commentary, so excuse me if I'm wrong. So I think I'm more interested in what happens in the games next week, mainly because I think we're going to be seeing the teams that do play, we're going to be seeing the starters. I would expect them to do that. And then the game, I think there's probably like one more warm-up game week, or maybe there's two, but you would see less starters then, because I would have felt like they would try to build some momentum at this point. So it was an interesting weekend for sure, and some entertaining rugby happened. Argentina exciting, Ireland dominant, France and Scotland both exciting. France could be dominant. They had so many substitutions, it was difficult to kind of see that. South Africa, obviously good. Australia, seeing a little bit more excitement. New Zealand, dominant. Probably the best team, I think, going into the World Cup currently. So yeah, fun weekend of reviews. I'll catch you next week.